Sea otters. If you are looking to find this animal, look no farther than coastal areas in the eastern and northern Pacific Ocean. Did you know that sea otters are part of the weasel family? It's true, and their sizable weight range between 31 and 99 pounds makes them the heaviest of the brood. With that being said, they're also some of the smallest marine animals around. A lot of their mass is a dense coat, which helps to keep them warm in the planet's oceans, and it is the densest coat of any animal in the animal kingdom. Here are a couple of adorable facts. They often grab and hold onto each other's hands while they're napping so that they don't drift apart. They also have a pouch located underneath their forearms where they store their favorite rock, which they use for a variety of purposes. They are super smart and can learn almost anything we can try to teach them, and they'll even tie themselves in kelp to help keep themselves anchored in place. They're resourceful, sweet, and all around beautiful wild creatures. Black-footed cat. Now, you may have never heard of this cute creature before, so let us inform you. It's also commonly called the small spotted cat, and it can be found in southern Africa, and it is the smallest of the African cats. They typically only reach lengths of 14 to 17 inches, but they add about another third to their length with their 5 to 7 inch tail. They weigh on average between 2.9 and 5.4 pounds, and their size is sex dependent, considering males are often a bit larger than females. Their feet aren't entirely black, as their name might suggest, but instead, typically only the pads and undersides of their paws come in the shade. They are often tawny or cinnamon buff in color and sport brown or black spots. They live alone and are nocturnal, and they spend the day resting under cover or in unoccupied burrows of other animals. They are not social, which sucks for us, so if you ever see one, don't approach because it will run and hide. Or if you're unlucky and back it into a corner, it'll defend itself so fiercely that in some parts of southern Africa, they are nicknamed the anthill tiger. Pygmy hippopotamus. These creatures can basically be considered little giants, and if you're looking to find some in the wild, look no farther than West Africa. There are only 2 species that fall into the family Hippopotamidae, and one of them is the pygmy. The other is its much larger, much more common cousin, the hippopotamus. The cool and adorable thing about these babies is that they look almost identical to the hippopotamus, with one huge difference: their size. They weigh around a quarter of what a common hippo does, and they only stand about half as tall. They stand between 2 and 3 feet tall at the shoulder, reach lengths of 4 and 5 feet, and weigh a very slight 397 to 600 pounds. Can you even imagine? They're also much more docile than the common hippo, where they will ignore others when they see them rather than fight. They also live alone or in tiny groups, unlike the common hippo, which typically consists of a mother and her calf, or a mated pair and their baby. They're cute, they're sweet, they're tiny. Need we say more? Red panda. This adorable mammal is found in the southwestern part of China and the Himalayas. They have reddish-brown, fluffy fur. They waddle because they have tiny front legs, and they have a long, poofy tail. Do we have to say any more? They too are around the size of the average house cat, although they are heavier and a little bit longer. Now, most people think pandas only eat bamboo. This is untrue. They also eat things like bugs, birds, and eggs. They're typically mostly nocturnal and do all of their business between the dusk and the dawn and relax throughout the day. No wonder they're little chubs. Their weight ranges between 6 to 13 pounds, and they're around 20 to 25 inches long, not including their tail, which can be up to 23 inches long. When they sleep, they'll sprawl out on a branch and dangle their paws. If it's hot. If it's cold out, they curl up and cover their faces with their tail, making them some of the cutest sleepers around. They are, unfortunately, on the IUCN Red List due to poaching, fragmentation, inbreeding depression, and habitat loss, and estimates put the number of wild red pandas at less than 10,000. Sea lions. Try telling us that this description of a sea lion doesn't sound adorable. The animals are characterized by their walking on all fours on their long flippers, having external ear flaps, really short, thick hair, and a large belly and chest that just screams adorable, and they are, just as the description describes. They can live in tropical and subarctic waters, although the place they don't go is the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean. There is a vast difference between males and females when it comes to size. Female California sea lions will reach 220 pounds and about 6 feet in length, whereas the males can grow 660 pounds and be 8 feet in length. They can be territorial, however, they tend to keep to themselves even though we've done a lot to harm their populations. Sealing, overfishing of their food sources, and our presence in their key hunting areas have helped to kill off many sea lions over time. Fennec fox. These little foxes with the big ears are considered crepuscular, which means they're mostly out and about during twilight, and they're little desert animals. They can be found in places like the Arabian Desert, the Arava Desert, the Sinai Peninsula, and the Sahara. They are the smallest canids in the world, and their chief standout feature is their giant ears, which not only provide excellent hearing, but also serve to dissipate heat. Everything about them is adapted for a desert environment, including those enormous ears, their coat, and the function of their kidneys. Do you want to know how sensitive these big ears make their hearing? They can hear things like little mammals and bugs moving beneath the ground, which are the primary sources of prey for the gorgeous foxes, along with birds. They reach lengths of just 9 to 16 inches and usually stand no taller than 8 inches. They are very slight and weigh in at only 1.5 to 3.5 pounds, which makes them sound like a good pet, right? They are allowed as pets in some places, including the US, but they are never fully domesticated and are still considered wild animals. Little penguin. You may be wondering why these cuties are called little penguins. Well, if you haven't figured it out yet, we'll tell you. It's because they're tiny. They typically grow to be around 13 inches in height, but that measurement is subject to change for different subspecies. They're known by different names in different parts of the world. For example, in New Zealand, they're often called blue penguins or little blue penguins, and in Australia, they're commonly known as fairy penguins because they're so small. Those places are where they are mostly found, and there may have been some in Chile at some point. Now, why would they be called blue penguins? Again, if you haven't figured it out, let us enlighten you, because they're pretty darn blue in color. The blue shows up on their heads, upper parts, and their flippers. They don't get very big, they average around 3.3 pounds and have a really short lifespan of just about 6.5 years. Us humans haven't treated them so well in the past, which is hard to believe because they're definitely some of the cutest animals around. Bottlenose dolphin. Bottlenose dolphins are known for being extremely cute, extremely intelligent creatures. They're found literally everywhere in waters around the world, except in both the Arctic and Antarctic Circle. They live in groups, and many studies have been done to test their intelligence. It has been found that they can actually recognize themselves. They can categorize objects, utilize mimicry, and use artificial language. They've also been shown to pass down knowledge of various things throughout generations and to use tools in a number of ways, including using marine sponges to get at food sources they wouldn't be able to get to without. They are often curious around humans when they encounter them in the water and have been known to rescue divers by bringing them to the surface. They've also helped protect swimmers from shark attacks. They drive fish toward fishermen and have been trained to do things for both the military of Russia and the United States. They're awesome, smart, and beautiful, and they've most definitely earned their spot on this list. The quokka. This itty-bitty little macropod comes in at around the size of the average house cat, and they're friendly, adorable baby vegetarians. They act a lot like cats too. They're nocturnal, will walk right up to human beings, will climb trees, and live for around 10 years, which is sadly a little bit shorter than a cat's lifespan. They typically measure approximately 16 to 21 inches long and have an adorable tail that reaches between 9 and 11 inches. They're also relatively light, between 5.5 and 11 pounds, and are built like stocky little kangaroos. You can find them on smaller islands around Australia, like Bald Island and Rottnest Island, and sometimes, if you're lucky, you may be able to spot them in coastal and forest heaths between Albany and Perth. You can also head to several local zoos around Australia to visit this beautiful creature, but interaction is more limited than finding them in the wild. We've seen some amazingly cute wild animals on our list already, and we still have the number 1 spot to go. But first, let's ask a question. What is your favorite wild animal? If you had to pick, what would you say is the cutest and why? Let us know in the comments below. Slow loris. The slow loris. This animal came to everyone's attention a few years ago via the internet, and there's no surprise that they're considered one of the cutest animals that walk our planet. These slow-moving, bug-eyed primates are native to Southeast Asia and some of the surrounding areas. They have, as we already mentioned, large eyes, which is one of their most recognizable and cutest features. But they also have small, round heads, little narrow snouts, short legs and arms that are roughly the same length, and flexible bodies, which allows them to perform all kinds of climbing feats. Funny thing to note here, though, they have a toxic bite, which is extremely rare for mammals. They're omnivores and eat fruit, tree gum, other vegetation, and small animals.